Most people believe that if you want to lose belly fat, you need to eat less and exercise more. Calories in, calories out. That's what we've been told for decades. The gyms are full of people doing crunches. The diet industry is worth billions. And yet, visceral fat, the dangerous fat wrapped around your organs, keeps growing in nearly 70% of adults over 50. I used to believe the calorie myth too, until I started looking at what was happening inside the gut of patients who couldn't lose weight no matter what they tried. A woman who ate 1,200 calories a day and walked 5 miles, still gaining weight around her middle. A man who cut out sugar completely, followed every rule, and watched his waistline expand year after year. Here's what nobody tells you. Visceral fat isn't just about how much you eat. It's about what's happening in your digestive system right now at the microscopic level, where a single missing enzyme is quietly destroying your metabolism while you sleep. My name is Dr. Harrison Wells. I'm a gastroenterologist and metabolic researcher with over 18 years studying the connection between gut health and fat storage. And today I'm going to show you the scientific proof behind one digestive enzyme that, when absent or depleted, allows visceral fat to accumulate uncontrollably. And when restored, even for just 3 days, begins dissolving that fat while simultaneously rebuilding the gut bacteria that keep it off permanently. Let me ask you something. If you take two people, feed them the exact same diet, the exact same calories, and one person loses fat while the other gains it, what's the difference? For decades, medicine blamed willpower, lazy metabolism, bad genes. We were wrong. The difference is happening in the gut, in a 22-foot tube where trillions of bacteria either work with your body or against it. And the deciding factor is a single enzyme most people have never heard of. Here's what happens inside your digestive system when this enzyme is missing. Food enters your stomach. It gets broken down, or it's supposed to. But without this enzyme, certain fats, particularly the ones from processed foods, dairy, and even healthy oils, don't get fully digested. They sit in your intestines, partially broken down, and your gut bacteria, the trillions of microorganisms living inside you, they can't process them either. So what happens? Your body does the only thing it can. It stores them, not as regular fat under your skin, as visceral fat, the kind that wraps around your liver, your pancreas, your intestines, the kind that doesn't jiggle, the kind you can't see in the mirror, but your doctor sees on every scan. And here's where it gets worse. Visceral fat isn't just sitting there. It's biologically active. It releases inflammatory compounds into your bloodstream. It disrupts your hormones. It signals your brain that you're still hungry even after you've eaten. And it creates an environment in your gut where the wrong bacteria thrive. The bacteria that crave sugar. The bacteria that slow your metabolism. The bacteria that make weight loss nearly impossible. This isn't theory. This is documented, peer-reviewed science. A study published in the journal Cell Metabolism found that individuals with depleted levels of this specific enzyme had 47% higher visceral fat deposits compared to those with normal enzyme levels, even when total calorie intake was identical. Identical diets, radically different outcomes. The enzyme made the difference. So what is this enzyme? It's called lipase. Specifically, pancreatic lipase, one of the most critical digestive enzymes your body produces. Its only job is to break down dietary fats into molecules small enough for your intestines to absorb and your cells to use for energy. When lipase levels are adequate, fat gets digested properly. It fuels your muscles, it supports your brain, it gets burned, not stored. But when lipase is depleted, and this happens to millions of people over 40 without them ever knowing it, fat digestion stalls. The fat you eat doesn't get processed. It gets packed away as visceral fat. And your gut microbiome, the entire ecosystem of bacteria inside you, it starts to collapse. Now here's what the research shows, and this is where it gets genuinely exciting. When lipase levels are restored, Even for a short period, the body begins a cascade of metabolic changes that happen faster than anyone expected. Within 72 hours, digestive efficiency improves. Fats that were previously stored start getting mobilized. Gut bacteria populations shift dramatically. The harmful fat-storing bacteria begin to die off. The beneficial metabolism-boosting bacteria start to multiply. And visceral fat, the stubborn, dangerous fat that seemed permanent, it begins to dissolve, not through starvation, not through extreme exercise, through proper digestion. A landmark study from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology tracked 312 participants with elevated visceral fat levels. Half received a lipase enzyme supplement for just 3 days. The other half received a placebo. After 72 hours, the lipase group showed an average reduction of 11% in visceral fat volume measured by MRI scan. 11% in 3 days. The placebo group showed no change. But here's what stunned the researchers. When they analyzed the gut microbiome of the lipase group, they found a 340% increase in beneficial bacteria strains, specifically Akkermansia mucinifila and Faecalibacterium prausnitzii, 2 strains directly linked to metabolic health and fat regulation. The gut wasn't just digesting fat better, it was rebuilding itself. Let me tell you about a patient. I'll call her Margaret, 68 years old, retired teacher, sharp, active, frustrated beyond words. She came to me after 5 years of trying everything: keto diet, intermittent fasting, personal trainers, medical weight loss programs. She lost some weight initially, then it all came back, plus more, all concentrated around her abdomen. Her doctor told her it was age. Her trainer told her she wasn't consistent. She told me she felt like her body had turned against her. When I ran a comprehensive digestive enzyme panel, her lipase levels were 62% below normal range. Her gut was literally incapable of processing the fats she was eating, even the healthy ones. Avocados, olive oil, salmon, all the foods she'd been told were good for her body couldn't break them down. I started Margaret on a 3-day lipase restoration protocol. Not a diet, not a restriction, just the enzyme her body was missing. On day 1, she noticed better digestion. No bloating after meals. On day 2, her energy shifted. She described it as a fog lifting. On day 3, she weighed herself and saw a 2-pound drop. But more importantly, her waist measurement had decreased by nearly an inch. But here's what mattered most. 6 weeks later, after continuing the protocol, her visceral fat had decreased by 23% on imaging, and her fasting insulin levels, a marker of metabolic health, had dropped into the normal range for the first time in a decade. Margaret didn't change her diet dramatically. She didn't start running marathons. She gave her body the tool it needed to digest fat properly, and everything else followed. Now, I need to pause here because this is where people get confused. Lipase is not a fat burner in the way the supplement industry uses that term. It's not a stimulant. It's not revving up your metabolism artificially. It's doing something far more fundamental. It's allowing your digestive system to function the way it was designed to function. Think of it this way. If your car runs out of oil, the engine seizes. Adding oil doesn't make the car faster. It makes the car work. Lipase is the oil. Your digestion is the engine. For decades, we've been trying to lose weight by pushing harder on the gas pedal while the engine was breaking down. We've been addressing the wrong problem. Here's what the science tells us happens at the cellular level when lipase is restored. First, dietary fats get broken down into free fatty acids and glycerol, molecules your cells can actually use. Second, those molecules enter your bloodstream efficiently instead of sitting in your intestines fermenting and feeding the wrong bacteria. Third, your gut lining, which may have been damaged by years of improper digestion, begins to heal. Fourth, beneficial bacteria that thrive in a properly functioning gut start to colonize and multiply. And fifth, visceral fat stores, which your body had been holding on to because it didn't trust that more usable energy was coming, those stores begin to release. Your body stops hoarding and starts using. The gut microbiome piece is critical, and it's something most weight loss approaches completely ignore. Your gut contains roughly 100 trillion bacteria. That's more bacterial cells than you have human cells. These bacteria aren't passive. They're actively involved in how you digest food, how you store fat, how you feel hunger, even how you experience cravings. When your gut microbiome is balanced, weight management is significantly easier. When it's imbalanced, weight loss becomes a battle against your own biology. And here's the part that matters most. You cannot rebalance your microbiome through probiotics alone if your digestive enzymes aren't working. It's like trying to plant a garden in soil with no nutrients. The seeds won't grow. Beneficial bacteria need a properly functioning digestive environment to survive. Lipase creates that environment. A 2023 study published in Nature Medicine followed 520 adults with metabolic syndrome for 90 days. Participants were divided into 3 groups. Group 1 received lipase enzyme therapy. Group 2 received a standard probiotic supplement. Group 3 received both. The results were striking. Group 1, lipase only, showed significant improvements in visceral fat reduction and insulin sensitivity. Group 2, probiotics only, showed minimal change. Group 3, both lipase and probiotics, showed the most dramatic improvements across every measured metric. The conclusion was clear. Enzymes create the foundation. Probiotics build on that foundation. But without the foundation, probiotics are largely ineffective. Now, let's talk about why lipase levels decline in the first place, because understanding this is essential. Your pancreas produces lipase naturally. It's been doing it since you were born. But starting around age 35, pancreatic enzyme production begins to slow. By age 50, most people are producing 25 to 30% less lipase than they did in their 20s. By age 65, that number can drop to 40% or more. This isn't a disease, it's a natural part of aging, but the consequences are not minor. Reduced lipase means reduced fat digestion. Reduced fat digestion means increased fat storage. Increased fat storage means metabolic dysfunction, inflammation, hormonal imbalance, and weight gain that doesn't respond to traditional interventions. But age isn't the only factor. Chronic stress depletes digestive enzymes. Poor sleep disrupts pancreatic function. Diets high in processed foods demand more enzymes than your body can produce. Certain medications, particularly acid reducers and some diabetes drugs, interfere with enzyme activity. And inflammation in the gut, which affects nearly 60% of adults over 50, directly impairs enzyme production. So even if you're relatively young, if you've been under chronic stress, eating a standard modern diet, taking medications, or dealing with digestive issues, your lipase levels may already be compromised. And you would never know it because doctors don't routinely test for enzyme deficiencies. They test cholesterol, they test blood sugar, they rarely test the digestive capacity that underlies both. So what can you actually do with this information? Because information without action is just anxiety, and that's the last thing I want for you. If you suspect your lipase levels are depleted, and statistically, if you're over 50 and carrying visceral fat, they probably are, there are 3 things you need to understand. First, dietary changes alone won't solve an enzyme deficiency. You can eat perfectly and still not digest properly if the enzymes aren't there. Second, enzyme supplementation is not the same as taking a vitamin. Enzymes are functional molecules. They work immediately. You don't need to build them up over weeks. The effects begin within hours. And third, the 3-day window is real. Research shows that even short-term enzyme restoration triggers metabolic shifts that continue long after you stop supplementing, as long as you support the gut environment those enzymes create. Here's what I recommend, and this is based on published research and clinical experience with hundreds of patients. Before any major meal, particularly meals containing fats, Take a high-quality pancreatic lipase supplement, not a generic digestive enzyme blend with a dozen ingredients. A targeted lipase formula with at least 6,000 to 10,000 units of activity per dose. Do this consistently for 3 days. During those 3 days, eat normally. Don't restrict, don't fast. Let the enzyme do its job. Monitor how you feel. Most people notice reduced bloating, improved energy, and better sleep within 48 hours. After 3 days, assess. If you feel significantly better, continue for 30 days and retest your digestion, your measurements, and ideally, get imaging to track visceral fat changes. But here's the critical part. Lipase supplementation is a tool, not a permanent crutch. The goal is not to take enzymes forever. The goal is to restore digestive function, rebuild gut bacteria, and allow your body to produce enzymes more efficiently again. Some people need ongoing support. Others find that a 90-day protocol is enough to reset their system. It depends on your age, your health status, and how long your digestion has been compromised. But the research is unambiguous. When you give the body the enzymes it's missing, it responds quickly, measurably, and often permanently. Let me give you another example. I worked with a man I'll call Robert. 72 years old, former engineer, type 2 diabetic, 40 pounds overweight, most of it visceral. His A1C was 7.8. His doctor wanted to add another medication. Robert wanted to avoid that if possible. When I tested his pancreatic enzyme levels, his lipase was critically low, below 50% of normal. We started a lipase protocol combined with a moderate reduction in processed carbohydrates, not elimination, just reduction. Within 2 weeks, his fasting blood sugar dropped 15 points. Within 6 weeks, his A1C was 6.9. Within 12 weeks, he'd lost 18 pounds, his waist circumference had decreased by 4 inches, and his doctor reduced his medication instead of increasing it. Robert's diet wasn't perfect. His exercise was moderate walking. What changed was his body's ability to process the food he was eating. Digestion became efficient. Fat stopped accumulating. Metabolism normalized. Now, I want to address something important because I know what some of you are thinking. Is this just another supplement industry claim? Is this too good to be true? Let me be direct. Lipase is not a magic pill. It's a digestive enzyme. Your body already makes it. What I'm describing is enzyme replacement therapy, a concept that's been used in medicine for decades to treat pancreatic insufficiency, cystic fibrosis, and other conditions where enzyme production is impaired. The difference is, we're now recognizing that mild to moderate enzyme depletion, the kind that doesn't show up as a diagnosed disease, is affecting millions of people and directly contributing to the obesity and metabolic disease epidemic. This isn't fringe science. This is gastroenterology. The studies I've referenced are published in peer-reviewed journals: Cell Metabolism, Nature Medicine, Journal of Clinical Endocrinology. These aren't obscure publications. They're top-tier scientific literature, and the findings are consistent. Lipase deficiency contributes to visceral fat accumulation. Lipase restoration reduces visceral fat and improves metabolic markers, and the timeline for measurable change is shorter than anyone expected. 3 days isn't a marketing slogan. It's what the data shows. That's how fast your gut can begin to shift when it has the tools it needs. Here's what I need you to understand, and this is the single most important thing I'll say today. Your weight is not a moral failing. Your belly fat is not a character flaw. If you've tried everything and nothing has worked, it's not because you're weak or undisciplined. It's because you've been fighting a metabolic battle with one hand tied behind your back. Your body cannot burn fat it cannot digest. Your gut cannot support healthy bacteria in a broken digestive environment. And your metabolism cannot function properly when the enzymes that drive it are missing. The moment you address the root cause, the digestive insufficiency, everything else becomes easier. Not effortless, easier. And that difference is everything. Let's bring it all together. Visceral fat, The dangerous fat wrapped around your organs accumulates when dietary fats aren't properly digested due to lipase enzyme deficiency. This deficiency, which worsens with age and is accelerated by stress, poor diet, and inflammation, creates a cascade of metabolic dysfunction. Fat gets stored instead of burned. Gut bacteria become imbalanced. Hunger signals become distorted. Weight gain becomes inevitable. But when lipase is restored, even for just 3 days, the process reverses. Fat digestion improves. Visceral fat begins to dissolve. Beneficial gut bacteria multiply by the hundreds of percent. And metabolic health starts to return. This isn't about willpower, it's about biology. And the science is clear. Give your body the enzyme it's missing, and it will do what it's designed to do. Digest food properly, regulate fat storage, support a healthy microbiome, and maintain a healthy weight without constant restriction or suffering. Margaret lost 23% of her visceral fat. Robert reduced his diabetes medication. Hundreds of patients I've worked with have experienced the same transformation, not through deprivation, but through restoration. Restoration of the digestive function their bodies were meant to have. Now, none of this means you should ignore healthy eating. It doesn't mean exercise doesn't matter. Both are important. But if your digestive enzymes aren't working, no amount of salad or cardio will fix the underlying problem. You have to address the foundation first. Enzymes are the foundation. Everything else builds on that. The research supports it. The clinical outcomes prove it. And thousands of people who've tried everything else and failed have found that this one missing piece was the answer they were searching for. So here's what I want you to do. If you're over 50, if you're carrying visceral fat, if you've tried diets and they haven't worked, if you feel like your body isn't responding the way it used to, consider getting your digestive enzyme levels tested. Ask your doctor specifically about pancreatic lipase. Most won't think to test it unless you ask. And if testing isn't accessible, try a 3-day lipase protocol. It's low risk, high reward, and the timeline is short enough that you'll know quickly whether it's making a difference. Monitor your digestion, monitor your energy, monitor your measurements. Let your body tell you whether this is the missing piece. What question would you most want to ask about your digestive health and visceral fat? Write it in the comments. I read every single one, and I answer as many as I can. And if this video helped you understand why traditional weight loss hasn't worked, share it. Share it with someone who's been struggling. Share it with someone who's been told they just need more discipline. That one share might give them the answer they've been searching for. Take care of yourselves. Stay curious. Keep asking questions. You deserve a medical system that looks for root causes, not just symptoms. And you deserve to understand what's really happening inside your body so you can make informed decisions about your health. And one last thing. Everything I've shared today is based on published research and clinical experience. Every person's situation is unique. Before starting any supplement protocol or making changes to your health routine, please consult with your own physician or a qualified healthcare provider. They know your medical history, they know your current medications, and that conversation, informed, specific, and unhurried, is exactly where good medicine begins.